Hi, I'm Bryce, and I picked my lesson to do over truth tables, so we're going to get right into my learning objectives. My students will be able to define a statement, a negation, and will successfully know how to do truth tables and define what a truth table is. First, I'm going to tell y'all what a statement is. A statement is a sentence that is either true or false. There are two types of statements, deductive and inductive. Deductive statements are used when wanting to get to a specific conclusion. Inductive statements basically do the opposite of deductive statements. They start off with specific information and come to a more generalized conclusion. Next, we're going to define negation. Negations are a false statement when the statement is true and true. So, for example, the statement that I put here is 2 plus 3 plus 1 equals 6, which we all know is of course true. So the negation for that would be 2 plus 3 plus 1 does not equal 6. So it will just be confirming that the statement is false if you're going to put the negation. Also, I would usually have the equal sign with the slash through, but unfortunately I do not have that symbol, so I put does not in all red. So hopefully you guys can remember. Next, we're going to get into truth tables. Since you already know how to define negations, I went ahead and added that symbol. It's like a squiggly mustache or a sideways S, I guess. So I have an example for that. P is Bill is a snake, and the negation of P is Bill is not a snake. So for that truth table, I would have two columns. In my first left column, I would start off with true, and then I would put false underneath it for every possibility. And in the right column would be the negation, so the opposite. So if my left column says true, then I'm going to put false in my right column. And if my left column says false, then I'm going to put true in my right column. I also added the definition of a conjunction, which is just a joined statement. I also have the definition of a compound statement, which is and or, statements that have and or. I added these symbols over here that I learned in class. This is from my notebook, all three pictures. So when there's a mountain's peak and a line underneath, then it is and when there's a V with the line underneath, then it would be or. So the example I have with P and Q is I will go to the mall and I will go to the gym. Notice the and from the compound statement, so it would be this one. Our P would be I will go to the mall, and our Q will be I will go to the gym. For more into truth tables, I have my table right here written out with the Morgan's Law. Here is our symbol for this table, P, mountains peak, Q. For our truth table, we will always start off with true, true, and false, false for our P. Our Q will of course be the conjunction of that, so if true for true for P, then true for Q. If it is true, then it would be false. If it is false for P, then it will be true, and then false, false. So if you notice, we have every possible outcome for P and Q in our first two columns. So for our third column of our truth table, we will use our first two rows to go off of. So it's true, true, so our P or Q is true. True, false, so our Q is false, and so forth and so forth. And for our not P or Q section, it would be the opposite of P or Q, well, the negation. So I'm working with the third and fourth column. True, false, false, true, true. Sorry, that should be false, and false, true. For right here, that should be a false. When we go to our highlighted column, which is not P, not Q, you will just use our first two columns again. So it would be the opposite of our first P, so it would be false. And I'm working with the first and fifth column, by the way. True, false, true, false, false, true, false, true. The same thing for our not Q, which is our second and sixth column. Q is true, false, true, false. So our not Q would be false, true, false, true. And for our not P and not Q, I have the same exact falses and trues that I do in our fourth column as I do in our last column. So that is a truth table. Lastly, I talked about direct and indirect statements. If P, then Q. For example, if he makes the field goal, the Cowboys win. Our P of the statement is he makes the field goal. Our Q is the Cowboys win. The indirect statement of that would be the Cowboys lose, therefore he missed the field goal. This statement is flawed, or I guess not true, because it doesn't determine if they lost due to the missed field goal. Lastly, I added a little truth table that I found on Google. I thought it was pretty self-explanatory and follows what I have in my lesson. It also goes more into depth of why we get true or why we get false, and explains our symbols as well. Thank you.